They threw me out like garbage, me and my 3-month-old baby, right there at his mother's charity gala. My husband stood there with his arms crossed, smirking. His mother laughed. They thought I was nothing. They thought I'd disappear quietly. They were wrong, dead wrong. Before we get into this story, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what I'm about to tell you will have your jaw on the floor, and trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Now let me take you back to the worst night of my life, the night that changed everything. My name is Lauren, and 3 years ago I thought I had it all figured out. I was a corporate lawyer, the kind who worked 70-hour weeks and lived off coffee and ambition. I was good at my job, real good. I'd clawed my way up from nothing, put myself through law school, and made a name for myself at one of the top firms in the city. Then I met Trevor Whitmore at a legal conference, and everything changed. Trevor wasn't just rich. His family had the kind of money that bought buildings, not apartments. Old money, real estate empire money. The Whitmore name opened doors I didn't even know existed. He was charming, attentive, and he pursued me like I was the only woman in the world. 6 months later, we were married. I should have seen the signs then, but love makes you blind, doesn't it? His mother, Diane Whitmore, barely smiled at our wedding. She looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. But Trevor assured me she just needed time to warm up to me. Time didn't help. If anything, it made things worse. When I got pregnant, Trevor insisted I quit my job. He said his wife didn't need to work, that I should focus on the family. I hesitated because my career was everything to me, but he made it sound so perfect. Stay home, grow our family, live in comfort. So I agreed. I took what I thought was a leave of absence and moved into the Whitmore estate full-time. That's when the real Diane came out. She made little comments at first. About my hair, too natural, not refined enough. About my clothes, not appropriate for the Whitmore image. About where I came from, my family, my background. She never said anything directly racist, but she didn't have to. It was all there in her tone, in the way she looked at me, in how she introduced me to her friends. "This is Trevor's wife," she'd say, like the words tasted bad in her mouth. And Trevor? He was never around to see it. Always traveling for business, always too busy to notice how his mother was slowly cutting me down to nothing. I gave birth to my son Caleb 3 months before that horrible night. Those should have been the happiest months of my life, but they were the loneliest. Trevor came home twice in those 3 months. Twice. He missed Caleb's first smile, his first laugh, everything. I was living in this massive mansion with staff everywhere, but I felt invisible. Diane made sure of that. She'd walk right past me like I wasn't there, give instructions to the nannies she tried to hire without asking me, made decisions about my own son without including me. I was drowning, but I kept telling myself it would get better. Then came the night of Diane's annual charity gala. It was the event of the season, held at the Grand Belmont Hotel. Every wealthy person in the city would be there. I wasn't officially invited, but Trevor called me that afternoon and said I should come. He said it was time I started being part of the family publicly. I was so happy, I almost cried. Finally, I thought. Finally, they're accepting me. I got dressed in the nicest gown I had, did my makeup, tried to look the part. Caleb was still breastfeeding, so I had to bring him with me. I didn't have a choice. I bundled him up, got a car, and arrived at the hotel with hope in my heart. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, women in diamonds that cost more than houses. I walked in with Caleb in my arms, looking for Trevor, wanting him to be proud of me for showing up. Then I saw Diane's face. She spotted me from across the room, and I watched her expression change from surprise to fury in seconds. She cut through the crowd like a shark, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "What are you doing here?" she hissed when she reached me. Her voice was low but sharp enough to cut. I told her Trevor said I should come, that he wanted me here. She looked me up and down, her eyes landing on Caleb. "With a baby?" she said, loud enough for people nearby to hear. "This is a high society event, Lauren, not a daycare." People were starting to stare. I felt my face get hot. I tried to explain that Caleb needed to eat, that I couldn't leave him, but she wasn't listening. She was already signaling someone. Caleb started crying, sensing my distress, and that made everything worse. I tried to find a quiet corner, somewhere I could nurse him and calm him down, but Diane followed me. She wasn't going to let this go. That's when security showed up. 2 men in black suits appeared on either side of me. Diane stood there with her arms crossed and said the words that still echo in my head, "She's disrupting the event. Remove her." I looked around frantically for Trevor. Where was he? He told me to come. He had to fix this. And then I saw him. He was standing across the room with a blonde woman I'd never seen before. Her name was Chelsea, though I didn't know it then. They were laughing together, standing close, her hand on his arm. The way they looked at each other, I just knew. My husband was having an affair, and everyone in this room probably knew except me. Trevor saw me looking. Our eyes met across that crowded ballroom, and I waited for him to come help me. To tell security there was a mistake. Instead, he said something to Chelsea and started walking toward me. But he wasn't coming to save me. When he got close enough, he looked at me with eyes colder than I'd ever seen and said, "You're embarrassing me. You need to leave." I couldn't breathe. The man I married, the father of my child, was siding with them. I begged him. "Trevor, please," I said. "Caleb is crying. I just need a few minutes." But he'd already turned away. He went back to Chelsea, leaving me there with security closing in. Diane actually laughed. Not a polite laugh, not a nervous laugh. A triumphant laugh like she'd finally won. The security guards grabbed my arms. I was holding Caleb, trying to protect him, trying to keep him safe while they pulled me toward the exit. People were pulling out their phones. I heard the clicks of cameras, saw the flashes. They were recording this, recording me being dragged out like a criminal while my baby screamed. I kept looking back at Trevor, waiting for him to stop this nightmare, but he just stood there with his arms crossed, smirking. They dragged me through the lobby, past guests arriving for the gala, past staff who looked away because they didn't want to get involved. When we got outside, it was raining. Cold, hard rain. They let me go on the sidewalk, and I stumbled, nearly falling while holding Caleb. The hotel doors closed behind me, and I was alone in the rain with my crying baby, my ruined dress, my shattered dignity. I sat down on the curb because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. Caleb was soaking wet, screaming, and I couldn't even comfort him because I was falling apart. This was rock bottom. This was the moment where I had to decide what kind of woman I was going to be. Was I going to let them destroy me, or was I going to get up and fight? I got up. I called the one person I knew would help me, my old mentor, Angela Rodriguez. Angela was the kind of attorney who ate people like the Whitmores for breakfast. She'd tried to warn me about marrying into that family, but I hadn't listened. When she answered the phone and heard my voice, she didn't say "I told you so." She just said, "Where are you? I'm coming to get you." Angela picked me up within 20 minutes. She took me and Caleb back to her place, got us dry and warm, and then she sat me down and said, "Tell me everything." And I did. I told her about Diane's abuse, Trevor's neglect, the affair I'd just witnessed, all of it. When I finished, Angela looked at me with fire in her eyes and said, "We're going to bury them." Here's what they didn't know about me. I never actually quit my job. I'd taken a leave of absence, which meant my name was still on several major cases. More importantly, I'd been documenting everything. Every cruel comment from Diane I'd recorded on my phone. Every text message from Trevor ignoring me or making excuses I'd saved. Every email about financial decisions they made without consulting me, I had copies. I'd been building a case without even realizing it, just trying to protect myself. Angela brought in a private investigator, and what we found was beautiful. Trevor's affair with Chelsea had been going on for over a year. She worked at his company, and he'd been using company funds to buy her gifts, take her on trips, set her up in an apartment. He was embezzling from his own family's business. But it got better. We found offshore accounts that Diane didn't even know about. Trevor was stealing from everyone. The private investigator dug deeper and found something that made my jaw drop. Diane and Trevor had been planning this. They wanted to push me out, divorce me quietly, and install Chelsea as the new Mrs. Whitmore, someone more appropriate, someone who fit their image. They'd been plotting my removal for months. That night at the gala wasn't an accident, it was a setup. But wait, there's more. We looked into Diane's precious charity, the one she used to maintain her social status, and found it was committing massive tax fraud. She was inflating donation claims and pocketing the difference. We had paper trails, witness statements from former employees, everything. The Whitmores had built their entire life on lies, and it was about to come crashing down. I looked at the prenuptial agreement I'd signed, the one Trevor's lawyers had rushed me through. Angela found loopholes they'd missed. Despite the prenup, I had rights to half of everything acquired during our marriage. That included company stocks, properties, investments. We're talking tens of millions of dollars. We filed for divorce and full custody of Caleb. We hit Trevor with fraud charges. We reported Diane's charity to federal authorities. And then we released the video from the gala. Someone had sent it to me, probably a guest who felt guilty about watching and doing nothing. We posted it online with the caption, "This is how billionaire families treat new mothers." It went viral in hours, millions of views. The comments were brutal. People were outraged. The Whitmores panicked. Their lawyers called my lawyers trying to negotiate. Diane herself called me, her voice shaking, asking if we could handle this privately. I didn't answer a single call. I let them sweat. Every news outlet picked up the story. The Whitmore name, once synonymous with prestige, became a symbol of cruelty and corruption. The court date arrived, and I walked into that courtroom with my head high. Diane and Trevor showed up with a team of expensive lawyers, still confident that their money would save them. They were still smirking, still thinking they'd win because they always won. They didn't know what was coming. I presented my evidence methodically, calmly. I played recordings of Diane calling me inappropriate names, telling me I'd never be good enough for the Whitmore family. I showed financial documents proving Trevor's embezzlement. I brought in character witnesses, former staff members from the estate who testified about how I was treated, how isolated I was, how Diane threatened to fire them if they were kind to me. The judge's face changed as the evidence piled up. Trevor's smirk disappeared. Diane went pale. When the verdict came, it was everything I'd hoped for. I won full custody of Caleb. The judge awarded me $60 million in the divorce settlement, citing Trevor's infidelity, fraud, and emotional abandonment. Trevor was charged with embezzlement and faced serious prison time. Diane's charity was shut down immediately, and she was charged with tax evasion. Their lawyers tried to appeal, but the evidence was too strong. The social fallout was even better than the legal victory. Diane's friends abandoned her overnight. Nobody wanted to be associated with the scandal. Trevor lost his position in the company, and the board voted to remove him entirely. Chelsea left him the second his money disappeared. He went from billionaire heir to disgraced criminal in a matter of months. Everything they'd built their identity on, gone. I took my settlement and rebuilt my life. I went back to practicing law, specializing in family law and financial abuse cases. I started a foundation to help women escape situations like mine, women who feel trapped by wealthy, controlling families. I named it Caleb's Hope, after my son, who gave me the strength to fight back. We've helped hundreds of women so far, and we're just getting started. Caleb is thriving. He's happy, healthy, and surrounded by love. He'll never remember that night, and I'm grateful for that. But I'll never forget it. I'll never forget sitting on that curb in the rain, feeling like my life was over. Because that was the night I learned who I really was. Not Trevor's wife, not the Whitmore family's punching bag. Lauren, a lawyer, a mother, a fighter. Trevor reached out once from prison, asking if we could talk. I didn't respond. There's nothing left to say to him. Diane tried to apologize through her lawyer, probably hoping I'd help reduce her charges. I declined. They made their choices. They thought they could throw me away and face no consequences. They learned otherwise. The last I heard, Trevor's serving a 5-year sentence for embezzlement. Diane lost everything. Her reputation, her friends, her freedom. She's facing serious jail time for the tax fraud. The Whitmore empire is crumbling, being sold off piece by piece to pay legal fees and restitution. And me? I'm free. Truly free for the first time in years. They thought I was nothing because I was alone, because I was vulnerable, because I had just given birth. They thought throwing me out would break me. Instead, it woke me up. I want you to remember this. Your lowest moment doesn't define you. How you rise from it does. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to stand up to people who underestimated you? I read every single one. You are stronger than you know. Don't ever forget that.